Welcome back to the Meta Economist interviews. And today we have a new guest. We are going to talk about AI since AI is something that brings together and appears in every section of our news web portal since is in metaverse ambientations and metaverse environments. It's linked to blockchain and also to cryptocurrencies. So we decided to have a focus on this topic. For this, I invited for you Laura Rosell. Welcome, Laura.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
and it's a pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you, Ilaria. Nice to meet you, and thanks for having me.
So Laura is from the United States, but is working in Europe, in Berlin in particular, as a freelance writer and copy editor. And I decided to invite you, Laura, because I was really impressed by one of your articles, and I want to just share with our uh, followers, with our audience, this article that was published on the writing cooperative medium, which is really a very good place to create a good information. So, by the way, your article was titled "The AI Revolution and the Economy Have Killed My Highly Skilled Job." And we
Mm.
will have the time to underline every aspects of this article. But first, I just wanted to ask you your job background, because we know that all the creative works and workers are kind of scared about AI. So the first thing I want to share with our followers is your work background and why you decided to make a comment on AI.
At the beginning of the article, I mentioned something that I'd recently seen on the internet in a local message board somewhere in Germany. Someone was asking for help with editing a research article, and they said that they could pay what was the equivalent of 1 hour of pay for this service, and that on top of this, they would also be willing to bake a cake. And someone, first of all, it was just kind of alarming that they were offering just a single hour of pay for a much bigger job. Well, single hour of pay and a cake. But then someone just added, "Why don't you use ChatGPT?" And I thought, this is part of the problem that I feel like a lot of people in my industry are facing. Last year, I talked to a number of other people who do the same work that I do, copy editing for the research world, and it seems like everyone is struggling right now. And I also noticed that the rate at which new projects are coming in from new clients is going down. So, my outreach is the same, but there are fewer and fewer new people who have been seeking editors, from what I've seen, and also the impression that I get from talking to some other people in this field. And the fact that I realize more and more people now think that they can just use Chat GPT or something similar for this work, I think that that's a big part of the reason why. And I don't think it's the only reason. I think that the economy is also part of it. People are struggling financially, and in their eyes, it doesn't really make sense to hire an expensive service when they're struggling. And I completely understand that. But yeah, that was what inspired this, and what I was trying to talk about. I was frustrated at the posts that I saw online, but at the same time, it felt like it spoke to a larger cultural moment.
Perfect. But what if you go back to the choice you made about your job? Why did you decide to be a copywriter, a copy
Mhm.
editor, and freelance writer?
Okay, that's a really good question. So I had wanted to do something creative since I was very young, but the truth is that I grew up in a blue collar setting in a coal mining town in Pennsylvania, and there just weren't a lot of people in my world who understood the world of the arts. So, the advice that I got when I was young, before I even got to college, was like, yeah, you can write, but write in your free time and do something more practical when you're studying. So, I thought that it would be practical to study foreign language. I was thinking that I could, still be working with language, but I could become an interpreter or a translator. And in the end, then I decided, no, I would like to do something sociological. So I decided to do a graduate degree in sociology and demography. But in the end, those very old desires to become a writer, they won. So I decided I would leave academia. But the reason that I ended up doing copy editing was just because my professors and my peers, when I was in academia for a couple of years, they noticed the strength of my writing skills. And a lot of really brilliant researchers struggle very much to express their thoughts clearly because they're such big picture thinkers. It's really hard sometimes for them to, condense their idea and express it in a way that people who aren't as brilliant will understand. And they noticed that they needed help with this, and they realized I would be very good for helping them with this. So my first work as an academic copy editor was just because I was asked, and I thought, why not? Partially, it was my research assistantship right before I left academia. And then afterwards, when I was looking for work and I was offered more of this kind of project, I thought, sure. But then I would say one of the biggest reasons why I really leaned into it was actually so that I could emigrate to Germany. Because in Berlin, you can get a visa as a freelancer, and freelance visas are pretty rare around the world, even now, which is kind of wild because we have such a global economy and so many remote jobs. It's still hard to get freelance visas. So I thought, okay, I still want to be a writer, but it's hard to convince an immigration authority that I can make it as a writer. But if I show them, look, I do this thing for these technical people, then I thought I would get a visa, and luckily I did. So that's the very roundabout story. My goal, my dream is still writing, but the academic copy editing has been how I got a visa and how I was supporting myself.
Perfect. So one thing we can say is obviously Chat GPT cannot describes this kind of path, this kind of shades of life and stuff. So this is 1 to 0 for you against Chat GPT. But apart from the ironic part of the story, the next question will be about what do you think AI could bring to creative professionals, journalists, and copywriters? Let's say the positive side of the story. There's something you think the AI could bring, can add to some job titles, some job work, some creative workers.
Mhm. Um, I I'm optimistic that as AI improves, it would be able to offer more. But I know from being from being in some groups online where people are doing creative work and they talk about what AI is able to do for them, it seems that for the truly creative workers, AI is not so helpful yet. But I could see helpful applications in terms of, for instance, if you're writing something research based, or if you're trying to submit to a particular publication, maybe you could consult ChatGPT and ask what are the what are the stylistic guidelines of this publication? For instance, what kind of punctuation do they require? What sorts of, like, what style of citations? That's one thing, for instance, that my academic clients sometimes have to change in the middle of a project, that they will intend to submit a research article to a particular publication, but then when they decide they're changing their direction and submitting it to a different one, they have to make changes to how it looks, not necessarily the content itself, but how it's structured and the style. And by style, I mean those nuts and bolts of style, not
Yeah.
artistically the style. So I think AI could be good for that, where it's really about concrete nuts and bolts and details like this. I also get the impression that AI can be helpful, maybe with offering you an outline. If it's not a very creative work and you just need to figure out how to organize ideas, AI could probably give you ideas in that regard. And yeah, there's another thought that I had just as I was speaking this, but it slipped my mind. But in general, that's the impression that I get, that at the moment, its capabilities are more on the concrete side of things than on the artistic, truly creative side. Oh, I'm sorry, Ilaria. I remembered the other thing I was thinking was, for example, a lot of a lot of creatives, we live for the art, but we don't know so much about the business world. So my understanding is that you can potentially use AI to come up with basic ideas for a business plan or a content strategy. But again, this is something where I'm not really sure how well it performs because I haven't tried it like this. And I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. And I really believe that in most situations, especially when it comes to ideas and advertising and content strategies, this is really about connecting emotion to emotion. And I feel like in situations like this, it usually is better to hire a human. But if you don't have the money to hire a human, maybe AI might still give you some ideas to start with.
Yeah. Sure. Your answer was really clear and helpful to understand all the pro and contra about AI. But coming back to stepping back to your article, what I want to underline is one of the most important things um, you underlined in the article. And we can talk about the knowledge gap that is is something that AI cannot uh, replace in some ways. So in the article, you said the people who believe ChatGPT can do such highly nuanced work don't know what they don't know, and that's a really philosophical approach. Can you open up our eyes on this?
Yeah, I can try. A lot of the time in the work that I do, the problems that people are having, well, there are two levels of problems. First of all, someone who's very confident with their writing skills, they're not even going to think most of the time, at least for a smaller work like an article length work, they're not going to think, let me hire an editor. Because if you're really strong in your writing skills, you're aware of this. Sometimes people are strong in their writing skills in their native language, but not so much in English. But if you're not strong enough that you're confident about this, if you can't trust yourself, for instance, to catch a spelling mistake, or if you don't know where to put commas, these are common problems that a lot of writers have, but they're also in some ways the simplest aspects of writing. And they're like the icing on the cake. They're the last stage. They're the thing that you take care of at the very end. But if you can't even trust that you can do this correctly, then unfortunately, a lot of people don't have a very strong education in writing. So these people often have even deeper problems with respect to their writing, that they aren't even aware of. Meaning examples like they might they might not realize when they're expressing something entirely unclearly. They might not understand the importance of good organization. They might not understand how to structure a paragraph. They might think that it's okay just to throw a whole bunch of ideas at the reader and hope that the reader figures out what the point is. So this is what I mean by you don't know what you don't know. That's one level of it, that if you can't even fix a spelling mistake or put a period in the right place, you probably would benefit a lot from professional help with your writing, because there's other stuff going on that is probably weakening your work. But even for very high level writers, there are often little nuances that make a big difference in meaning, and they don't necessarily notice this. So, one situation that I ran into recently was someone was using the word differentially. Sorry, they were using the word deferentially when I think they meant differentially, but would a spell check program or a general grammar program notice that they used the wrong word when syntactically it was fine and it was spelled correctly? And honestly, maybe deferentially would work. It really depends on what they wanted to say. So this is what I mean about nuances. And if you're already inclined to use the wrong word or express something in some way, not knowing that this is the wrong way, you're also not going to know that it's wrong when a chatbot tells you, looks good.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it really makes sense, and I think we all need to be warned about this. And as every technological digital tool, also AI and will be part of our lives, but we
Hmm.
need to understand what you're trying to say, so that we can use it correctly in some ways. So what I want to ask you after that is if you think some job could really be replaced by AI, or maybe the human intelligence could be a kind of help that AI will always have to deal with. What do you think?
I can tell you, Ilaria, that I can see benefits with AI with respect to, this job in some ways, but that's limited. I can't really speak to other jobs because I don't know enough about them, but I really do believe that anything involving authentic human experience, a computer is never going to have an authentic human experience. So I think that that's irreplaceable. Like, for instance, you occasionally see these memes floating around about AI writing screenplays. I don't want to watch a movie written by a computer. I don't know that that's really going to be happening. In some ways, I guess it already is. There's AI generated video, but would it genuinely enrich my life or anyone else's life to watch a movie about the human experience that a non-human has written? I don't know. I doubt it. But like with respect to my work, for instance, sometimes, and on some level, AI can reduce a little bit of the time required and the cost burden on the client. And I have encouraged clients in the past sometimes, if their work was so full of problems that it was very slow, unusually slow for me, I would tell them, maybe it would be a good idea for you to use a program like Grammarly first. Actually, I don't know if I should even be referring to Grammarly as AI. I've never personally used Grammarly, and I should also add, I am not advertising Grammarly. This is not. This is
No,
not.
don't worry.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I found that when the client put their manuscript into Grammarly first to take care of the most basic mistakes, it shaved a little bit of time off the work required of me and therefore the money that this client had to pay. But in the end, it just, AI wasn't really adequate to most of what my job is about. So it's an interesting question that you ask, like, will it replace some jobs? In some ways, it might replace jobs, but that doesn't mean that it can or is qualified to. You know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know what else to say.
I'm catching the point you want to share with us. Um, as I was saying in the introduction of your interview, the AI is something that now we are we see more and more linked to the web 3.0, or everything that is the digital 3D virtual web. So from the blockchain to the cryptocurrency, to the cryptocurrencies and the virtual environments, and the augmented reality, virtual reality. So, what do you think can be the relationship between um, maybe AI avatars that can help people navigating across this Web 3.0? Uh, do you think that will be something in that case that can be useful for help people to navigate correctly and reaching the informations? Or do you think uh, also in this field that will be difficult to understand what is good and what is not? I mean, the answers.
That's an interesting question, Ilaria. I I wouldn't really know where to begin to answer. So I want to make sure that I'm understanding the parts of your question properly. So first, you're asking about AI avatars guiding human users. Is that what you were asking about?
Exactly. And
Okay.
since we'll be a reality that we will change the way we using web tools, and
Hmm.
we will obviously continue to use web 2.0, but maybe that will be part of our real environment in some ways with augmented reality. So as the web navigation is changing, uh, do you think that maybe the evolution of chatbot with AI avatars could bring new uh, good answers, or maybe not, to the users?
I think it's too early to say. I hope that they develop and get better. I mean, personally, I get really frustrated when I have a very complex question and the chatbot can't understand me, customer service situations. A
Yeah.
lot of companies are firing the humans and putting in chatbots, but the chatbots just literally don't understand because they can't understand, and then they give you nonsense. So I don't know. I haven't really personally experienced a reality in which avatars have been able to help me. But that doesn't mean that we can't get there. Uh, but I don't know how long it will take to get there. I mean, things change quickly. Could be 5 months from now. Who knows? Um, yeah, I don't know. It's not like I'm completely pessimistic about it. It's just I don't think we're there, but I can't envision what it will require for us to get there because that's not my forte. That's not my area of expertise.
Okay, okay, okay. But last question for us today. Let's overturn the point of view. I speak myself. Uh, if um happens that the creative workers, the creative minds, the copywriter and the writers will be in charge of AI, so that they can really create the contents of the open sources AI, or maybe the customized trained AI, because what people really um, they don't understand now that there will be an open source AI, as we know, the web pages that are created from ordinary people, and there will be customized AI that will be trained by academic people, maybe, or people who has verified informations. So if happens that this could be the good path to use AI, what you will change your mind about the AI revolution, or you still um, you know um, you still think that AI is not a good revolution?
It's not that I think that it's a bad revolution in the first place, so I just want to clarify that. But I think the larger issue is it's important for humans to recognize that they shouldn't just give up the reins and let machines run the show. Um, you could put you could put a lot of money and time and resources into training models to be better, and if these models can provide genuine help for people, then that's great. But at the end of the day, like, it's still important that there's human oversight, I think, at the end of a process. It depends. I mean, it depends on how important that process is. If you're publishing something and your whole career hangs in the balance, it's probably not wise to just not even consult with the person. But if the creative work you're trying to do is, you're someone who maybe isn't good with words and you just want to write a sentimental letter to your spouse for their anniversary, I mean, ideally that would come from your heart and not a chatbot. But if you really need the AI's help, then that's fine. Uh, so it's not like I think that it's bad. It's just that I think that no matter how good it gets, it's still important that we have check-ins with human beings. And the more high stakes the the output, the more important it is that humans are actually looking at it. So that's kind of the way that I see it.
So, as always, we really want to find a good balance to integrate digital tools and digital revolution and virtual revolution with the everyday life and the mechanic life, let's say.
Yeah.
So, I really thank you, Laura, because I really wanted to focus on this topic about AI. And with you, I think we really had the chance to underline every important aspect. So thank you again, and see you soon at the Math Economist.
Thank you, Ilaria. It's an honor to be invited to interview by you. So
Thanks.
happy
Thanks.
to help.
See you, and with our followers we are gonna see and watch more news on our Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, and obviously on thematheconomist.com. Bye everyone.
Bye.